Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today I want to discuss with you some of my breastfeeding struggles that I've had even as a nurse. So if you're interested in that, keep on watching. I want to tell you though that I do not give medical advice out on this channel. If you're having issues, you need to consult a lactation consultant, speak with your pediatrician, and even do your own research. But I want to tell you the struggles that I've had and just tell my story, empower women who are breastfeeding, who are nurses, who are working on busy hospital units, and just to tell you, don't give up. So I want you to know that if you're breastfeeding and you are having struggles right now, you're not alone. Even I have had struggles. And so let's talk about what kind of struggles I've had. I do want to put out there that I am a nurse, but I work with adults. I do not have any experience with NICU babies, pediatric population. No, I only have experience with adults. So what I'm about ready to discuss with you is all from my personal experience trying to breastfeed my 2 children. As a background, I have an almost 2-year-old and my youngest is 8 months. I was never able to breastfeed my 2-year-old, and I am successfully breastfeeding my 8-month-old. So both of my children have been in the NICU. Both were full term, and I had complications at birth that led to them staying in the NICU. My oldest stayed in the NICU for 7 days, and my youngest, I think, was 3 days. So with my son, I did take a breastfeeding class. That is all that I knew about breastfeeding, except for what I've also tried researching online. So when he got into the NICU, I didn't see him for about probably 12 hours. So for 12 hours I wasn't able to breastfeed him at all. So I started pumping right away. I believe the nurses suggested every 3 hours at that point. Every 2 or every 3 hours, I can't remember. And so then eventually I got up to the NICU where we were able to breastfeed. From there, it was a very stressful time, and I can tell you that every single nurse that I had that was taking care of my son in the NICU told me something different. As a new mom, I had no idea what to believe. The one thing that really did stick out to me was the fact that one of the nurses said, "Feed on a schedule." And as I can tell you now from breastfeeding my daughter, that there is no such thing as a schedule for a breastfed baby. So there was the first mistake that led me to not being able to breastfeed my son. I had fed him, and you know, the nurses like to keep track of how long they breastfeed, and then pretty soon, before you know it, it might have been like 30 minutes, he was hungry again. As a motherly instinct, I went ahead and fed him because I could tell that he was hungry. So I got him settled and I left the room to go use the restroom, and I mentioned to the nurse, "Oh yeah, well, he was hungry again." So I fed him for another, I don't know how long it was, 5-10 minutes. Once I got back from the bathroom, she actually had told me, like, "You need to feed on a schedule. You're going to be feeding for so long." Or no, how did she put it? I don't know exactly how she put it, but she basically told me to feed on a schedule, that I need to feed every 3 hours. Not any less, not any more. Every 3 hours. So if you're a NICU nurse, leave in the comments below. Is this something that you're told with breastfeeding moms, that you should be on a schedule? Also, is this different for premature babies versus term babies? My children were both 39 weeks and some days. So it's not like they were preemies at all. And I feel like even in the NICU, they should have been able to feed on demand. So when she told me that, in my head, I thought, okay, well, I can only feed every 3 hours. That's not true. You could be feeding every hour, every 2 hours, every 3 hours, or every 4 hours. It really is just going to depend on your child. And there is definitely such thing as cluster feeding. I did not get to experience the first 2 weeks of cluster feeding because here's the second thing that kept me from being able to breastfeed my son, is that he had a lip tie, a tongue tie, and buccal ties. And in fact, my daughter, which according to my pediatrician, he did not have. However, he never gained weight while breastfeeding. He just kept losing weight. And let me tell you, I had the most severe nipple pain that you could ever imagine. I'm not talking just your normal starting to breastfeed nipple pain. Severe nipple pain. And I had lipstick creased nipples, also, as well as with what I noticed with my daughter was clicking at the breast in the bottle. So I encourage you, if you feel like that these do exist and this is part of the reason that you're having breastfeeding issues, do your research, go find the appropriate person to talk to. So I do want to do some more videos on this because I could talk all day about this. I fully 100% believe in tongue tie, and you will find out that this is very, very controversial among the medical field. The hospital that I actually delivered at, and I'm not going to say any names, does not believe in tongue ties or lip ties or any of that. So when I was first having troubles with my son, I thought, oh, I delivered at this hospital, they have a lactation group, so I'm gonna go and speak with them and find out why this is not working. Why am I having so much pain? Why does he keep losing weight? And as a nurse, I ended up actually finding out that information that they are not allowed to talk about a tongue tie because pediatricians in the area do not believe in them. So there again is another thing that kept me from being able to breastfeed my son. I ended up just deciding to exclusively pump for a month and then realized that there's no way that I'm going to be able to maintain a supply just exclusively pumping while working on a progressive care unit, which is where I still work. And so then I moved to formula. Now with my daughter, she had all the same issues. However, she was a little bit of a better feeder because she did not lose weight, but she never gained any weight until I started to have to supplement with a little bit of formula at the end of a month, which I did get both of my children's tongue tie and lip ties lasered. Both of them at a month old. However, the only thing that I did differently was supportive therapy. Basically, for my son, I didn't know anything about this, but I was so determined to breastfeed my daughter that I did a ton of research. And so with my daughter, we did chiropractor care and craniosacral therapy. So if you want to know more about this stuff, give this video a thumbs up. Put a comment down below if you've done tongue tie procedure for your child. If you're having some breastfeeding issues, you can reach out to me, but like I said, I'm not a lactation consultant. This is only coming from the actual experiences that I've had. After my daughter had hers corrected, I still continued to have nipple pain, and I would say it was about 2 weeks after the chiropractor and the craniosacral therapy got started, it eventually got better. It did get worse for a little bit, but after that it just got better and better and better, and now we are at 8 months and I'm so excited. I never expected this to happen. It was my dream to be able to breastfeed my daughter because I had so much issues with my son. And so but however, breastfeeding this long as a nurse in a hospital is coming with its own issues, and that's another thing I want to talk about. So here is the third thing. So there's a recommendation out there now that you should not pump before 6 weeks, but since my children were in the NICU, I pumped right at birth. I would say that yes, this has its own place. It can cause oversupply. I actually made a different video talking about this, so if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. But I want to go further into why I said that you should pump before 6 months, and this is only coming from the experience of a nurse, not somebody who has a much better work environment for breastfeeding. Nursing is not a breastfeeding friendly environment, not at all, which is part of the reason why I knew I wasn't going to be able to exclusively pump for my son. So because I pumped before 6 weeks for my daughter, I have saved up a ton of milk. I probably had 900, close to 1,000 ounces in the freezer before I returned to work. My pumping schedule, when I first went back for, I'd say, a month or two. So I went back when she was 3 months old. I pumped 4 times a day. I pumped on the way to work, I pumped twice at work, and then I pumped on the way home. For the sake of my sanity, I decided that I was just going to decide to pump 3 times. So now I pump in the morning and I pump 2 times at work, and then I just feed her when I get home. So because of this, I have had a decrease in supply, and I am supplementing daycare bottles with frozen milk. Personally, to me, that is not a big deal. So right now I am pumping, I'd probably say about every 5 to 6 hours, which is a really long stretch. There is a recommendation that you should pump every 2 to 3 hours at work. Yeah, that's not gonna happen on my job. I can't even get my own job done, let alone pump. I sometimes don't even get home until 9 o'clock at night, the way it is. To pump every 2 to 3 hours on a hospital unit, sorry friends, but that's not gonna happen. Not at my job anyways. But if you are a nurse and you're working on the hospital and you are able to pump every 2 to 3 hours, leave a comment down below. Tell us how you do it. Let other people know your secret. I probably won't decide to pump every 2 to 3 hours, even though my supply is lower, because this is what works for us, and I can't say that this will work long term to get us to a year. But right now it's working, so that's kind of what I'm gonna do. If you do also have this same kind of pumping schedule at your work and you made it to a year, let me know how. I really want to know. I really want to make it to a year breastfeeding my daughter. So the last and final thing that I want to bring up about breastfeeding struggles is that everyone has their own opinion about how you should breastfeed. So there is a group on Facebook that recommends breastfeeding your child on a schedule, basically every 2 to 3 hours, and then not more than 1 5-hour stretch at night. I do not do that. I could probably have a much better supply if I did, but my daughter sleeps for 12 hours at night, and this is what seems to work for us. As a nurse, I don't think only having a 5-hour stretch at night like that all the time would really help me perform well at my job. It's a long shift, 12 hours. It's very demanding of my mental abilities. If you're a nurse, you know what I'm talking about. And so I just feed on demand. When she's hungry, I feed her. If she doesn't wake up at night, I don't worry about it. So those are some of the things that I've had issues with while breastfeeding. We've got to 8 months. I'm so excited. I never thought I would make it this far breastfeeding. I was just wanting to get through maternity leave and then to try to make it through breastfeeding and working on a busy hospital unit, and I've made it 8 months so far. I'm ecstatic, and I want to know, are you having some breastfeeding issues? Have you overcome some of these issues that I've also had? And let's have a discussion. And if you want to know any more about delivering my children and how I overcame the NICU stays with breastfeeding my daughter and why we had more issues with my son, I mean, I could talk so long about this, but like this video, comment down below, and we'll see you next time. Bye.